Is Khaleep still a must pull? Well, after today, for some people, maybe not. Over the last few days, we've been receiving these combat motion videos from Chaos Zero Nightmare showing off some of the different cards for the different characters. And in these cards, we've noticed a few changes. So today, I'm going to be going over the changes we've seen in these first 5 characters, technically 4 because we haven't seen any change for Magna, and giving some of my thoughts at the end of this. Now, when we get more of these videos, I will do another video. This is kind of a follow-up to the video that I released recently, talking about why you shouldn't trust all the pre-release information that's going out, and this is a great example of that. So we're going to cover 4 of these first combatants that we've seen changes for, and once we get a few more of these, I will talk about them more in the future. So, starting off on a positive, we've actually seen a buff for Rin, which is good because a lot of people have wanted that. Now keep in mind, we don't see numbers of how much damage things are doing in these videos, so we're really just going off cost for some of these, and Rin's ultimate is an example of that. So we're going to go forward a little bit in this video here. Now, one thing to note is they have actually changed the art for this card on Rin. So if we come over here, we can see that previously, Rin's ultimate actually had this ring that's behind it with this cross over the top of it. This has now been removed. And when I say ultimate, we are talking about her ultimate card, not her ego skill. But yeah, that ring and cross behind her has now been removed on this card. But that's not the change we're here to talk about. The one that we want to talk about is the ego skill that comes after this. So we're going to see here, Dark Mist Secret Art Slash. And this is a 5 cost ultimate, which is actually down from what was in the playtest. In the playtest, it was a 6 cost ultimate. That's now gone down to 5. Now, hopefully she's seen changes in some other areas as well, because there were a few things about Rin that weren't amazing in the playtest. But out of the gate, we do have a reduction to her ego skill cost, which is nice. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at Tressa and her ego skill as well. So we're going to see it here, Wave of Darkness. This is a 5 cost ego skill. That is actually going to be up from her previous 4 cost that we had in the playtest. So a little bit of a nerf to Tressa there. When it comes to ego skills, I feel like a lot of people were still kind of figuring out when to play ego skills, when to allow yourself to go into breakdown faster, when to put more effort into avoiding a breakdown, stuff like that. So there's a lot of playing around with ego skills that we still need to get used to. But regardless, this is a nerf. When you recover from a breakdown, your ult is reduced by 4 points. So this was free before, but it is now going to cost you a point. And if I'm being honest, assuming we still have the same ego skill, it's a pretty good ego skill. I don't blame them for increasing the cost on that. Next up here, we're going to be taking a look at Luke. And this is kind of an interesting one because I'm not entirely sure what to think about this, but let me show you what I'm talking about. So here we are going to get the card Lethal Shot. Now in the playtest, this wasn't actually called Lethal Shot, this was called Deadly Rounds, I believe, but now has been changed to Lethal Shot. And the thing that's interesting about this is this card is now unusable. You cannot play this card normally. So to give you an example of that, we're actually going to take a look at Veronica in the playtest. So over here, you're going to see Veronica's Ballista card here, and it has that same icon. That icon is for unusable. So when we come over to the spreadsheet for Veronica, we can see down here are her ballistas, and they are all unusable. And yeah, unusable means that you cannot play the card by normal means. In the case of Veronica, it says here, at the end of the turn, deal 150% extra attack damage to a random enemy. So this card will play itself, it can't be played out of your hand. So what is this Luke card? Well, we can see over here, Lethal Shot, deal 100% damage plus 40% damage for each bullet card played this turn. Well, you can't play this anymore, so there's a chance that this has actually been completely reworked. Now when we take a look at the animation, this is still the exact same animation. This is exactly what we had in the playtest, so it is still a card that is dealing damage, but we're not 100% sure what else it's going to do or how it's going to be played now. Luke as well was a bit of a somewhat underwhelming character in the playtest compared to some of the other 5-star combatants that we had available. So again, we're seeing some pretty significant changes here to how he's actually played. And the last one we will be coming to is Khalip. What have they done to Khalip? Well, let's take a look. Now, the first thing we see is actually a potential buff to Khalip, but maybe not. And that's going to be with Greatsword Aquila. One change that we're going to notice here is this is now a 1-cost card at base. If we come over here, we can see this was originally a 2-cost card. Now, on one hand, this could be a buff because the card is cheaper to play. But we know that Khalip plays around Celestial, which is this over here. When a card in your hand is played, which is 2 or higher cost, you also play the card with Celestial. So now, Greatsword Aquila, at least at base, can't actually proc Vulture Launch anymore, nor can it proc Rally if you get the Epiphany for it. Now, we can also see here that she has 2 Epiphanies with Retrieve 3. This one specifically reduces the cost by 1 when the card is played. Now, if you have a 1-cost Greatsword Aquila, that means you can play it 3 more times completely free on that same turn. But of course, we're assuming that this also goes down to 1 cost, which it might not, but we'll need to see. But that's not the part that we really need to talk about. What we really need to talk about is the ultimate. Now, for those of you who played her, you may remember her ultimate card, Full Salvo. Deal 200% defense-based damage to all enemies, plus 80% damage for each 2 or higher cost card in your hand. Retain all cards in hand for 1 turn. Now, because this card has the ultimate tag as well, that means the turn is ended after this card is used. We also have a clip here of Full Salvo, a bit of a higher effect because it's been buffed in this point. And we're going to play this card, and you're going to see the animation. We have a slash coming through, and then just a whole load of stuff on screen, and then we get some AoE damage. Now, when we come over to Khalip's combat motion, first thing you might notice is this is now an X-cost card. So for those who don't know, an X-cost card means that there is an effect that is increased based on the amount of AP you have, and this card is equal to that. So to give an example of that, let's take a look at Kayron. He has an Epiphany for Echo of Futility, which makes it X cost. And it says here, deal 200% times X to all enemies. So in this case, if you have 1 AP, this is going to do 200. 2 AP, 400. 3 AP, 600. But it will also spend that much AP. So typically these are going to be cards you play at the end of your turn because they will drain what AP you have left. Though you might choose to play it at the start of a turn because the extra AP is going to give you more damage, or this one also gives more cards. So you kind of get a feel for how to play X cost cards. And we can see here that this, which is now called Absolute Perfection, is an X cost card. But there's more to it.
White Altair, show you our true power.
That is a very different animation. And you'll notice, the boss doesn't move. This card no longer does damage. Again, if we take a look at Khalip, this was a 200% defense-based AoE, plus 80% for each card in your hand. But as we've seen here, this is now a purely defensive X-cost card.
We, White Altair, show you our true power.
So, what does this mean for Khalip? Is she now a D-tier unit? No, it's very unlikely that that's going to be the case. But it seems like they've really tried to push her more into her Vanguard direction instead of having her treated as a DPS. As some of you would have known from playing her, you really don't play her as a Vanguard, and sometimes you even bring a Vanguard with Khalip. People were pairing her with Amir, pairing her with Magna, that kind of thing, because you didn't need a main damage dealer if Khalip was in the team. But now it seems like that's not going to be as much of an option. So if you are looking for an amazing unit to be pulling on day 1, Khalip may not be the target you want to reroll for anymore. Now, if Khalip is a unit you like, 100% reroll for Khalip, right? This does not take away from her waifu status, right? You want Khalip, you pull Khalip. But for anyone who was thinking about pulling Kali because of her power, you may want to consider going for another option or waiting until people have played the game and taken a look at these cards to decide, okay, I still want Khalip, or you know what, I'm going to grab someone else. I'm going to reroll for like a Hugo or for a Mei Lin, or maybe even just looking to get some more 4 stars to start your roster off. We will need to see. But from what I said in my last video about being wary of playtest information, of pre-release information. This is why, if you have watched a video telling you you should definitely pull Khalip when the game comes out, keep in mind she is not doing the damage that she was before. She is a more Vanguard focused unit if this is anything to go off of. So I'll reiterate this one more time. If there was ever a gacha game where you can just pull waifu or pull husbando on release and run with it, it's this game. And I can already tell there's going to be a lot of people who don't see this and are going to pull Khalip on day one and re-roll for Khalip on day one, and they're going to be disappointed when she's not performing the same as they expected. So I don't want to let the video go on too long. There is some information that we have been receiving. Again, once we get more cards that come out, I will take a look at what differences we have from the playtest to now. And once we get a few more of those changes, I'll make another video if there's enough to really talk about. Of course, we don't get the card text in a lot of these. We are just seeing the name, the cost, and the art, obviously the color as well, but I highly doubt anyone is going to change element at this point in the game. So that is what I will leave you with today. If you want the link to the spreadsheet, it will be in the description. Keep in mind, as I've just shown you, there's a lot of changes. The only thing I'm changing on the spreadsheet is the name of cards. So right now, this still says full salvo. I will be changing that. But for Luke, I've already changed this to lethal shot. And one little update I will give you guys is this notes tab is now being changed. This is where we are going to put the duplicates for the characters, so E1 through to E6, and then we'll have a little gap here, which maybe I'll put some notes there, we'll see. And the notes for the characters are just all going to go into this build notes section now. So in here, we will have alternative cards and epiphanies that you can go for, as well as a description on how to play the deck that is suggested. Now, these notes will not be ready on release because we won't know these things on release. We will need to wait and give it some time. But as I play the game more and I talk with more people and we get some more community opinions, this will start to get updated. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this and want to see more of it, make sure to subscribe. I will be talking a lot more CZN as we get closer to release, and after release, we will be playing this every single day. We will be streaming this almost every single day. I'll take a couple days to rest because, you know, we need sleep. But other than that, we will be covering the game regularly. I'll be doing a bunch of different challenges and competitions and stuff with the community and other creators. So if you are interested in that, please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.